May 26, 1999, Manchester United won the treble. That is the Premier League, the FA Cup and the Champions League, the greatest achievement in English football history. 26 years later, their stadium roof leaks during rainy matches. There are mice at Old Trafford and they just finished 15th in the Premier League the last season. How did this happen? Sir Alex Ferguson spent 26 years as manager. He won 13 Premier League titles, 2 Champions League titles, arguably the greatest manager of all time. However, he retired in May 2013, and since then, 10 different managers have come, over £1 billion spent on transfers, no Premier League titles, and no Champions Leagues for Manchester United. While their noisy neighbours Manchester City have won 6 league titles in that time, and they've also won the treble, which includes the Champions League. Liverpool have also gone on to win the Premier League and the Champions League. Even Leicester City in 2016 won the Premier League. So this is not a story about bad luck. It's not about just one bad manager or one bad signing. This is about a leveraged buyout that saddled the club with over £1 billion in debt. It's about a banker with zero footballing experience running a football club for 8 years with no structure. And it's about £1 billion being wasted on the wrong players. It's also about an 87-year-old tradition of youth development that completely got destroyed. This is a story of how greed, incompetence and mismanagement turned the theatre of dreams into a nightmare. We'll start at the peak, because to understand how far United have fallen, you need to see how good they were. Camp Nou, Barcelona, 1999, the Champions League final. Manchester United were losing to Bayern 1-0 and 90 minutes had already gone on the clock. The game was practically over. Then Teddy Sheringham (2-1), 2 goals in injury time. Man United went from defeat to glory in 2 minutes. They won the treble, Sir Alex Ferguson's crowning achievement, but it wasn't his last. 8 years later, Sir Alex Ferguson went on to build what many believe was an even better team. Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney and Carlos Tevez were the front three. In 2007-2008 season, these players were unstoppable. Ronaldo had 42 goals in one season, when Rooney went on to score 12 goals and 10 assists also in the Premier League alone. Carlos Tevez had 14 goals and about 6 assists. Combined, they scored like 79 goals and 29 assists. They scored over 70% of Manchester United's goals and other players also chipped in. The 57 Premier League goals between these three was more than 14 other teams were able to manage. And the way they played, Wayne Rooney called them the pure counter-attacking machine. When Man United won the ball, Rooney would drop deep, pick it up, and Ronaldo and Tevez would explode forward. Pace, power, precision. Opposition teams didn't just lose to them, they were terrified by them. That season, United ended up as champions of everything. They beat Chelsea in penalties in Moscow to win the Champions League. Ronaldo went on to score in that game. Edwin van der Sar went on to save a penalty from Nicolas Anelka, and of course we all remember John Terry's slip. United also won the FIFA Club World Cup. Rio Ferdinand said the 2008 team would beat the 1999 treble winners, but that is still an arguable statement. The next season, United did it again, back-to-back Premier League titles. They did win the Champions League though, but they narrowly missed out in the Champions League final against Barcelona. But they were dominant, they had a dynasty, and Manchester United, they were like the absolute best team bar Barcelona. But in the summer of 2009, everything started to fall apart. Cristiano Ronaldo had moved to Real Madrid for about £80 million. The best player in the world was already leaving. Carlos Tevez also moved across the city to join fierce rivals Manchester City. Sir Alex Ferguson would go on to win 2 more titles with Manchester United before retiring in 2013. But that magical trio, that front three, the peak that United had in 2008-2009, it was gone. But here's the part that most people don't realize. The problem didn't just start in 2013 after Sir Alex Ferguson retired. It started 8 years ago while Sir Alex Ferguson was still winning trophies on the pitch. The club was being poisoned off the pitch. In 2005, while Sir Alex was building his greatest team, while Ronaldo was developing into one of the world's best players, an American family called the Glazers completed a takeover of Manchester United. Fee £790 million. But here's the thing, the Glazers didn't have £790 million. What they did was called a leveraged buyout. They borrowed £575 million from banks, and here's the crucial part. They made Manchester United responsible for repaying the money. Manchester United have been debt-free since 1931, 74 years without owing a single penny. Overnight, they owed £760 million. Of course, all this money was to be paid in future as the club continued to develop. However, the interest rate on the debt, it peaked to about 16.5%. Annual interest payments continued and over £60 million every single year. By 2015, just 10 years after the takeover, Manchester United had paid over £1 billion in interest payments, financing costs and dividends to the Glazer family. £1 billion spent. That's a lot of money that could have gone into rebuilding the stadium, modernizing the training facilities, or investing in the academy, or even to sign the best players in the world. Instead, it went back to the banks and to the Glazers' pockets. By 2025, the interest payments alone exceeded £1.06 billion, and add that in the dividends, it's over £1.2 billion extracted from the club. And today, Man United is still over £1 billion in debt. The fans protested. For 20 years, they've protested. Green and gold scarves, Glazers out banners, but the Glazers remained. And to run their investment, the Glazers needed someone they trusted, someone who understood finance. Ed Woodward, an investment banker, JP Morgan executive, the man who had advised the Glazers in 2005 to do the takeover. His background? Finance, accounting, merchant banking. His experience in football? None. In 2013, 2 months before Sir Alex Ferguson retired, Ed Woodward was appointed executive vice chairman at the club. He replaced David Gill, a man who understood how football clubs operated. Now here's what you need to understand. Every top club in Europe has a director of football, someone who knows the game, someone who scouts players, identifies targets and builds squads for the long term. Man City had Shiki Bergenstein, former Barcelona player and sporting director. Liverpool had Michael Edwards, footballing person. Bayern Munich has sporting directors with decades of footballing experience. Manchester United, nothing. For 8 years, Ed Woodward refused to appoint a director of football. So you had an investment banker, someone who has never played professional football before, never scouted a player, never built a squad, personally negotiating transfers, personally deciding which players to sign. It was a recipe for disaster. Toni Kroos had already agreed to join Bayern Munich. He was a target for Manchester United. Eventually, Toni Kroos went on to join Real Madrid and he won 4 Champions League titles. Man United didn't try to get him. Sergio Ramos, Woodward did try to sign him publicly, but Real Madrid used Manchester United's interest to give Ramos a better contract. Man United got nothing. Erling Haaland, on the other hand, was the one that was glaring. He was available at Molde on a cheap. Woodward didn't move fast enough. Red Bull Salzburg got him, and later he went on to move to Borussia Dortmund and is now at Manchester City, scoring about 50 goals a season. The players that Manchester United missed out on became world-class players, just not at Manchester United. And into this broken system came the managers, 10 of them apparently, in 11 years. When Ferguson retired in 2013, he left behind a machine that ran on his own genius. No structure beneath, no succession plan, just a void. 10 managers tried to fill that void, not one succeeded. First came David Moyes, Sir Alex Ferguson's personal choice. The banner at Old Trafford literally called him the chosen one. He was given a 6-year contract and he only lasted 10 months. His first transfer window was a disaster. He chased Cesc Fabregas, Gareth Bale, even tried to bring Ronaldo back. He got none of them. Within 3 minutes left from the transfer window, he signed just one player, Marouane Fellaini, his former player at Everton. For about, let's say, £27.5 million, Fellaini at the time had a release clause of about £23 million that had just expired 3 weeks earlier, so he paid £4.5 million more than necessary for his own player. United finished 7th. With the same group of players that Sir Alex Ferguson had used to win the league the year before, Moyes finished 7th with them. By April 2014, David Moyes was sacked. Louis van Gaal came next. Champions League winner with Ajax, a proven tactical mastermind. He brought the most boring football to Old Trafford ever seen. In 2015-2016, United scored just 49 goals in 38 Premier League games. Newly promoted Bournemouth even scored more. By May 2016, United had won the FA Cup, however Louis van Gaal was sacked. Then came Jose Mourinho, finally a serial winner, a special one. 3 Premier League titles with Chelsea, 2 Champions League trophies, one with Porto and one with Inter. If anyone could fix this, it was him. First season, Jose Mourinho won the Europa League and the Carabao Cup or League Cup with Manchester United. Silverware was at least back at Old Trafford. In his second season in 2018, United finished with 81 points, United's best finish since Sir Alex Ferguson. However, United came second. But then Mourinho said something that everyone had mocked him for. If I tell you that I consider one of my best jobs of my career was to finish second with Manchester United in the Premier League, you will say this guy is crazy. He won 25 league titles and he's saying that he has just taken second and is one of his best achievements. I keep saying this because people don't know what is going on behind the scenes. People laughed, second place is your greatest achievement. Come on, you've won the Champions League. But here's what Mourinho knew. By summer 2018, United had just finished 19 points behind Manchester City. Mourinho wanted defensive reinforcements, and he submitted a list of targets. He wasn't able to get any of them. Toby Alderweireld, United couldn't sign him. Diego Godin from Atletico Madrid, United couldn't sign him. Jerome Boateng, United couldn't get their hands on him. Even Harry Maguire, United refused to sign him. Ed Woodward rejected every single one of the options that Mourinho wanted. They didn't want to spend on defenders. However, they spent big contracts for players that Mourinho didn't want. Those ones were approved. Mourinho also wanted to sell underperforming players, but the board would not let him.
Some care more than others.
Their wages were too high and no other club would want them. Public fallout with Paul Pogba, arguments on the training ground, the atmosphere just turned toxic. By December 2018, 6 months into the second season or third season, Mourinho was sacked. Years later, Rio Ferdinand said, "Mourinho's quote has aged so well. We can see that there's been stuff going on behind the scenes." He knew. Mourinho wasn't perfect, but he was right about everything, and nobody listened. After the toxicity came the nostalgia. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a club legend, treble hero, he understood Manchester United's DNA. He started as a caretaker manager in 2018 December, and he won 14 of his first 19 games in charge. They even beat PSG in the Champions League. The fans sang "Ole at the wheel." It felt like good old days are back. By March 2019, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was given the permanent job, and then reality finally hit. United became wildly inconsistent, but Ole kept spending. He eventually brought Harry Maguire to the club for about 80 million, a world record fee for a defender. Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well, he signed him for about 50 million. Then Jadon Sancho also joined the club for about 73 million. Later in January 2020, Bruno Fernandes joined the club for about 67 million. He was actually brilliant. It was like paper over the cracks. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer finished third and then second. They made progress on paper, but 3 years, United had spent over £300 million with no trophies to show for it. And here's the painful part. Ole had identified Erling Haaland when Haaland was at Molde. He wanted to sign Haaland at United. He was cheap, he was young, he was perfect. Ed Woodward didn't act fast enough. By late 2021, everything was falling apart at Manchester United. They lost 5-0 at home to Liverpool in October, and by November 21st, 2021, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked from the club. One key takeaway during his managerial tenure that he was the one who succeeded to bring Cristiano Ronaldo back to the club. Cristiano Ronaldo did speak about the problems at Manchester United, but eventually he got fired from the club. But that's a different story. The next manager that came after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was Ralf Rangnick, but he only came in as an interim manager for 6 months. He's referred to as the godfather of gegenpressing. United went on to finish 6th under Ralf Rangnick. He called the squad a complete mess and he left at the first opportunity. Then came Erik ten Hag, a young manager from Ajax who plays beautiful football. He develops young players. He's done it at Ajax before. He has gone on to win 3 Eredivisie titles. Finally, someone who could actually restore Manchester United and build something. What followed was the worst period ever in the club's modern history. Erik ten Hag's first season showed promise. United won the League Cup. That's their first trophy since 2017. They also finished third. It looked like there was genuine hope. However, he spent massively. Anthony joined from Ajax, one of his former players that he had at the club, for about £86 million. Mason Mount also joined in from Chelsea for about £55 million. Ten Hag also signed Rasmus Højlund for about £72 million from Atalanta, and he went on to buy Andre Onana from Inter Milan for about £47 million. That's over £350 million spent in 2 years. The second season, United finished in 8th place. 8th. Till that date, that was their worst finish since 1990, but we all know the worst was yet to come. They also finished bottom in their Champions League group back when the Champions League had a group phase. United didn't even make the Europa League, but they went on to beat Manchester City in the FA Cup final. That was at least one moment of glory, so it went on to save Erik ten Hag's job. But in his third season, what followed was the worst season at Manchester United's modern history. They dropped all the way down to 15th place, and they did go on to have a change of management where they brought in Ruben Amorim. By the end of the season, United have 42 points, the lowest that they have ever had since in 1990 season, the fewest points in the top flight since 1973 and 1974 season. They narrowly escaped relegation. because that year that they had the lowest point tally, United were actually relegated. So for the following season, 2025-2026, there will be no European football for Manchester United, the first time since 2014. From treble winners to the worst team in the club's history, that's how far they've fallen. So where did all the money go? Over £1 billion spent since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Let's go through them real quick. Paul Pogba signed for 89 million, world record fee at the time. He left on a free transfer 6 years later. No gain. Harry Maguire, 80 million, world record fee for a defender. Some say he has never really justified the fee, but from my personal opinion, I think Harry Maguire has done okay. Anthony, 86 million from Ajax, 3 league goals in his first season. Eventually he got loaned out to Real Betis. Jadon Sancho signed for 73 million. He stayed 2 years, but fell out with Erik ten Hag and of course multiple loan spells. Jadon Sancho is not really at the club right now. Romelu Lukaku was signed for 75 million. They sold him for 86 million at some point, to a 7 million loss. He did score goals for United, but he went on to score a lot more goals everywhere else. Angel Di Maria was signed for about 60 million. He played a season at Manchester United, but he was eventually sold to PSG for 44 million. So United made a 16 million loss in that deal. He did go on to offer Alexis Sanchez a £500,000 per week contract, one of the highest ever salaries for a player, and he didn't really perform for Manchester United. He had a worst run in United, but we all know Sanchez is good, right? That wage for Alexis Sanchez, the wages offered to players destroyed the club's financial structure. There are a list of other players as well, like Fred, Donny van de Beek, Memphis Depay, Andre Onana, of course, that we've spoken about earlier. It all tallies up to about 1 billion. Man City have gone on to spend similar amount of money, but I think they've won way more trophies, and they've probably signed more better players than United have done in the past. City have won 6 Premier League titles, 1 Champions League and 1 treble. Their empire is built on smart recruitment and a proper structure. So United's decline was not just about money, it's not just about wasting money or having failed managers. The club infrastructure itself was crumbling. While £1 billion was wasted on the wrong players, the actual stadium was falling apart. Old Trafford, the Theatre of Dreams, opened in 1910, capacity of 74,310, once a jewel of English football. In 2024-2025, we know that the roof is leaking during rainy matches. The fans sat in the rain inside the stadium. There were reports of mice and the ceilings are cracked. The seats haven't been renovated in decades. Meanwhile, Tottenham have built a £1 billion stadium, Manchester City have a modernized Etihad Stadium, Arsenal even renovated the Emirates. And Old Trafford, it's crumbling, because the Glazers took over £1 billion in interest and dividends while the stadium fell apart around them. But perhaps the most painful decline wasn't really the stadium itself, it was the soul of the club. For 87 years, United have always been consistent in having one academy graduate in their team. From the Busby Babes in the 1950s with Duncan Edwards, Bobby Charlton, the class of 92, they had Beckham and Giggs and Scholes, and the Neville brothers, Nicky Butt. That youth, that courage and success, that was Manchester United's identity. It's who they were. That's what made them different. In 2016, while Marcus Rashford burst into the first team, the academy behind him was crumbling. The under-18 lost 12 games in a row. They even lost 9-0 to Manchester City, or so I heard. The academy chief went on to quit, saying that he was disillusioned at the state of the youth system. The Telegraph said Manchester United's academy reduced to an underfunded afterthought. While Man City invested in world-class youth facilities, United let theirs decay. And then in 2024-2025, something unthinkable happened. Marcus Rashford, a Man United academy product that has scored over 138 goals for Man United, he was loaned out to Barcelona, and at Barcelona he is scoring, he's making everyone happy. The Barcelona directors are happy having him around. Rashford even claimed that he suffered from being too young during Manchester United's decline. To be honest, Rashford did have his problems, but not the fact that he didn't have talent. He did have talent and quality, and the fact that he was kind of frozen out from the club, it speaks volumes because of his performance when he left to Barcelona. Alejandro Garnacho as well was signed as a youth player. He is now sold to Chelsea. Scott McTominay, Manchester United's one academy product, he is also sold to Napoli, and he went on to win the Serie A with Napoli. Kobe Mainoo, one of the latest academy players in the team, he's reportedly seeking an exit. The club that built its identity on youth development is now selling its youth players because they couldn't develop them anymore. The class of 92 became club legends. The modern graduates, they're all thriving as well, some of them anyway, just not at United. That 87-year tradition of constantly having youth players in the team, if it's not already destroyed, it's slowly fading away.
The news comes a week after the club's latest financial results showed they were more than £1 billion in debt.
After 20 years of Glazers ownership, change finally came. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, British billionaire, Ineos owner, purchased 27.7% of the club for control of footballing operations, and he brought something United hadn't had in over a decade: a proper football structure. Jason Wilcox as the director of football, Christopher Vivell as the director of recruitment, finally football people making football decisions. But there was a price. Wycliffe's diagnosis was correct at United. United had been financially mismanaged for years, but his solution: cut everything. Over 250 staff made redundant in 2024, another 100 to 200 announced for the coming year, 2025. That's over 450 jobs lost. Sir Alex Ferguson's ambassadorial role terminated. Club legends Brian Robson, Andy Cole, Dennis Irwin, all their salaries were slashed. Staff Christmas party was cancelled. FA Cup final travel subsidies for fans, they cut that as well. Disabled fans parking charges also increased. Matchday host fees was cut by 50%. Training ground food reduced to soup and sandwiches. By the way, United have 200 million due in 2026. So if United can't pay, they could face point deductions, or even worse. United's debt is still hanging. Ruben Amorim inherited the worst team in United history, with a proper structure for the first time, but also and the fan base has watched the team decline for over 12 years. So what went wrong at Manchester United? Well, in 2005, the Glazers bought United with borrowed money and made the club pay it back, £1.6 billion in interest over the last 20 years. This money could have gone into rebuilding the stadium or modernizing the facilities or investing in the youth. In 2013, United also appointed an investment banker with no footballing knowledge to run the affairs of the club. That sort of set them down on a downward spiral. They had a revolving door of different managers for the last 11 years, and most of them spent a lot of money, close to £1 billion. This wasn't just bad luck, this was a compilation of many bad decisions. And through it all, there's still the overhanging debt over the club. Manchester United is a warning to every football club in the world. Success is fragile. Legacy is temporary, and if you let the wrong people make decisions for long enough, you prioritize profit over trophies, if you extract wealth instead of trying to reinvest it into the club, if you hire bankers to try and make footballing decisions for you, it's possible for your great empire to fall. No club is too big to fail. We've seen it recently with Barcelona. They're almost trying to get back on their feet, but it could have been a very big problem for them. We've seen the fall of Leeds United, we've seen the fall of FC Schalke 04, and now we're seeing the steady decline of Manchester United. So can they recover?